Welcome back to the channel. In the previous lesson, I proposed a thought experiment involving a forecasting competition where the competition organizer uses a probabilistic data generating process to simulate a time series for a period of 6 months, shares the results for the first 5 months with the participants, and asks them to submit their forecasts for the 6th month. Participants are an expert and a few naive forecasters. The participant with the lowest MAPE on the 6th month will win the competition. The naive forecasters do something very simple. They each look at the data for the first 5 months, find either its minimum, mean, or maximum, and submit those values as their forecast for the 6th month. So their forecasts are uniform across the entire forecast horizon. Expert, however, looks at the shared data and correctly infers the underlying data generating process. The question was, is it possible that the expert ends up losing to the naive forecasters? Imagine our data generating process consists of a hidden variable z that follows a normal distribution, whose standard deviation sigma changes with time such that at each time it depends on the previous value of sigma and z. The target variable y, that is the variable we want to forecast, is simply the square of z plus some constant. Simulating this data generating process for 6 months gives the organizer the following time series. Again, the organizer shares the first 5 months with the participants and asks them to submit their forecasts for the 6th month. The expert analyzes the shared data and correctly infers the underlying data generating process. So the expert knows that the observed variable y is a constant plus the square of some hidden variable z that follows a normal distribution. 2 things to note here. First, one can view the model that expert has learned as the best possible model because it is the true underlying model. In other words, if you train a perfect model using a perfect dataset, then your model should replicate the true underlying model. And that model, the true underlying model, is all you can learn from the data. The second point is that because this is a point forecasting competition, the expert has one more thing to do. She has to decide that at each time, which point from the correctly inferred distribution of that time should be submitted as the point forecasts for that time. I want you to pause the video and think about what point from that distribution you would have submitted were you in the expert's shoes. So at each time you have the true distribution and you are asked to submit one point from that distribution as your point forecasts for that time. Possibilities are submitting mean, median, or some other quantile of the distribution. What would you do? In my mind, in a similar situation, the most common thing is to submit the expected value, and this is what our expert also does. From a simple procedure outlined in the notebook linked to the description of the video, feel free to check out that Jupyter notebook if you want. The expected value of y at each time, in other words, the time-conditioned expectation of y, is the square of sigma plus the constant. The vertical bar means that we are talking about the expected value of y at a given time, as opposed to such expected value across all times. The expert submits those conditionally expected values, the yellow line, as her point forecasts. You can see how they compare to the minimum, mean, and maximum forecasts submitted by the 3 naive forecasters, that is, the red, green, and blue horizontal lines, and also how they compare to the true values held by the organizer, the white line. Now, the question is, who wins the competition? That is, which participant has the lowest MAPE? Let's calculate MAPE and rank the participants from low to high. Max forecaster turns out to be like an outlier with a very high MAPE. Let's exclude it so we can better see the other 3. Our near expert ends up losing pretty badly. Its MAPE is more than 2 times higher than that of the mean forecaster. One way to think about this outcome is that in a forecasting competition, one may build the best possible model, that is, the model that perfectly replicates the true underlying data generating process, but still lose to some naive model. The next natural question is, what if the ranking was done using mean absolute error or mean squared error? Would the expert have been able to win then? Here is the ranking based on mean absolute error, showing that the expert is still losing, and the one using mean squared error. So the only metric among the 3 that enables our expert to attain her rightfully earned victory is mean squared error. In the next lesson, we will go a little deeper on this to understand what goes wrong when a metric like MAPE or mean absolute error is used, and also to see what the expert or the organizer could have done to prevent this from happening. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope to see you next time.